War, blood, sacrifice. The echoes of the past still shape the future. The year is 1863. The Civil War has reached its darkest days. Fields soaked in blood, the cries of the wounded piercing the cold air. The fate of a nation hangs in the balance. But amidst the chaos, a stranger stands, Elon Musk. Through a groundbreaking simulation, he is thrust into history, forced to witness and feel the defining moments of Abraham Lincoln's leadership. For 3 days, he will not be a billionaire, an inventor, or a futurist. He will be a witness to war, mercy, and the choices that shaped America. This is not just history. This is Elon Musk's journey through time. Day 1. The little boy who stopped the war. The stench of war clung to the air, gunpowder, blood, and the cold breath of death. The Civil War raged, consuming everything in its path. Elon Musk stood frozen inside the White House, his heart pounding. Just moments ago, he was in a Tesla lab, but now, he was here in 1863, watching history unfold. The heavy doors creaked open. A frail old man stumbled in, gripping his hat as if it were his last hope. His beard trembled with his words. "Mr. President, please, my son. They took him. He's just a boy, and now they will kill him for trying to run." Elon felt the weight of the man's despair. Lincoln, seated at his desk, studied the father in silence, his tired eyes deep in thought. Where is he now? Execution at dawn. The words hit like a death sentence. The room fell still. Then, Lincoln reached for a piece of parchment, his quills scratching deliberately. Elon stepped closer, watching history being rewritten in ink. A signature, bold, final. Lincoln handed the paper to the old man. "What is this?" Lincoln met his gaze. "It is your son's life." The man gasped, barely standing. But before relief could settle, the doors slammed open again. "Mr. President, you cannot do this," a general stormed in, fury burning in his eyes. "That boy is a coward. If we let him go, what message does that send?" Lincoln slowly rose, his presence alone silencing the room. He studied the general, then spoke, his voice steady as steel. "If your army is full of brave men, surely you don't need to kill one frightened boy, do you?" Silence. The general stiffened, fists clenched. But there was no arguing with Lincoln's wisdom. Elon exhaled. He had built rockets, reshaped industries. But here, in this moment, he saw a power greater than any machine. Mercy. The old man wept at Lincoln's feet, clutching the paper that had saved his son. And Elon Musk knew this act of compassion would ripple through time. Mercy is stronger than punishment. True leaders save lives, not take them. Even in war, there is room for humanity. Day 2. Lincoln and the dying young soldier. The battlefield had faded into the past, but the war still lingered. Elon Musk found himself in a dimly lit hospital tent, the air thick with the stench of blood and antiseptic. The flickering glow of lanterns cast shadows over the rows of cots where soldiers clung to life or surrendered to death. The moans of the wounded filled the silence, each breath a reminder of how fragile the human body was. He had seen pain before, but nothing like this, nothing so raw, so final. Then, through the haze, he saw him. Abraham Lincoln moved quietly through the room, his coat brushing against the cold wooden floor. His face was drawn, burdened by the weight of war, yet he did not hesitate. He walked toward the suffering, not away from it. Lincoln stopped beside a young soldier, barely more than a boy, whose breaths came in weak gasps. His fingers trembled as he clutched at his tattered blanket, his skin pale, his life slipping away. "I wish I could see the president before I die," the boy whispered, his voice little more than air. Elon felt something twist in his chest. Lincoln did not hesitate. He knelt beside the boy, his towering frame lowering to meet him at eye level. Slowly, he took the soldier's frail hand in his own, his voice low, warm, steady. "You are speaking to him now, my son." The soldier's eyes fluttered open, cloudy with pain. then widened in disbelief. Tears welled, not from agony but from something deeper. Gratitude, peace. He had expected to die nameless, forgotten. But here at his bedside was the President of the United States, holding his hand, staying with him until the end. Elon felt a shiver run down his spine. He realized there was no invention greater than compassion. Lincoln did not move. He stayed silent and steady as the soldier took his last breath. And when the boy's hand finally went still, Lincoln closed his own eyes, swallowing grief like an old, familiar pain. Slowly he stood, wiped the wetness from his cheek, and turned to leave. Elon watched him go, understanding now why history could never truly capture the depth of this man. Lincoln was more than a leader. He was the heart of a nation, one that ached with every life lost. Leadership is not just about power, it is about having a compassionate heart. Even in the midst of war, Lincoln saw his soldiers not as numbers, but as precious lives. A simple act of kindness can bring peace to someone in their final moments. Day 3. Lincoln's Barefoot Sacrifice. The night was merciless. A bitter wind howled through the camp, cutting through layers of worn fabric and flesh. Fires flickered weakly, offering little warmth to the exhausted soldiers who huddled together, their breath visible in the freezing air. Elon Musk pulled his coat tighter around him. In this moment of history, he felt utterly powerless. Then, through the dim firelight, he saw him. Abraham Lincoln moved slowly through the camp, his long coat trailing behind him. Unlike commanders who dictated from a distance, Lincoln walked among his men, listening, observing, feeling their suffering as if it were his own. And then he stopped. A young soldier sat hunched outside his tent, his hands wrapped around his feet, bare, raw, trembling. The only barrier between his skin and the frozen earth was a strip of tattered cloth. Lincoln knelt beside him. His voice, though gentle, carried the weight of a leader who understood the struggles of those beneath him. "Why aren't you wearing shoes, son?" The soldier barely lifted his head, his eyes hollow from exhaustion. "My boots were torn apart in battle, sir. We don't have enough to go around." Elon watched as Lincoln's gaze drifted downward. The president's own boots, sturdy, worn, but intact, were the only thing protecting him from the same cold that bit at the soldier's skin. And then, to Elon's astonishment, Lincoln sat down in the dirt. Without a word, he began untying his laces. "Mr. President," the soldier gasped, You can't do that." But Lincoln only smiled as he slid the boots off his feet, pushing them gently toward the soldier. "Why not?" he said warmly. "I have a home to return to with other shoes waiting for me. But you are here fighting for me. You should at least have warm feet." Elon felt his breath hitch. He had seen greatness in innovation, in exploration, in ambition. But here, in this silent act of humility, he saw something far greater. Leadership wasn't about control, it wasn't about status, it was about sacrifice, about knowing when to kneel so that someone else could stand. Lincoln remained seated on the frozen ground, his feet bare against the cold, but he never shivered. And Elon Musk knew. History had never truly captured the weight of this man's heart. Humility is not about saying you are humble. It is about acting with humility. True leaders do not place themselves above others. They serve them. Sacrificing for others doesn't have to be grand. Even the simplest acts can mean everything.